Herbert's 100 harem. Okay, so you girls want a full contact defenestration nation run, right? He asks one of the larger groups of his wives. There's a lot of eager nodding at the idea. All right, not a problem. Now you girls want to hit the dance club and go for at least 2 hours after, right? The second largest group nods. He's getting all the plans ironed out for this little lesson for the brown-nosing idiots while also basically having a party with his girls. Give them a scare while everyone's having fun. Harriet, Sir Philip, and Madame Stepanova had agreed to make absolutely certain that none of the idiots would be armed. Regardless of the circumstances they met, he did not want any of his wives hurt. Even putting aside from the fact that he was married to them, there's the fact that they're all children who need. He forces that train of thought out of his mind. They're young adults. They're in training for their trades. They are old enough by their people's standards to be mothers and in the workforce. They are adults, young adults, but adults. And we're going to Aniala's stab and slab after. The third group mentions, and then the last one speaks up. Oh, then we're going through the Huruspeck Spire Gardens. They're so beautiful. The crowd gushes and Herbert nods to himself. All right, sounds like a wonderful night to introduce my new co-workers to Centris. Is it really that bad? Barisi asks him, and he nods. Not allowed to give you details, but they screwed up a really easy job with a mix of thinking they knew more than they did and panicking. And considering those horrible, horrible movies, you think that we're going to cause anything but a panic. I'm counting on it. They need to learn that just because things are different doesn't mean things are bad. Why were these people sent? Isn't it really, really hard to get your kind out of cruel space? Neely asks after a few moments. It is. The problem is that there's a huge difference between what people are willing to believe and what really is very, very different. We guessed as much from the old horror films, Barisi remarks. Still, dragging them around as the baggage as we go out for a wonderful night sounds like a party. Show them how to have fun, how to meet people, where to eat, and where to relax. We got that, right, girls? There's a cheer from the entire group and a parting of the waters as Ambassador Hlayla walks through them all and looks down on him. I'm not entirely comfortable with you using your wives to scare some sense into some fools. It's so much more than that, ma'am. In fact, past the first 30 seconds, that's not the point at all. It's to show these political appointees that flattered, bribed, and blackmailed their way into their positions that things just aren't what they expect. They need to learn that their minds have to be open to understand what's going on around them, not closed. A fair number of them can barely stand members of their own species because they have a delusional sense of exceptionalism that they've based their identities around. They need to be drawn out of it. In the end, there will be a few minor scares, yes, but it's going to be good for them. Delusional exceptionalism, Ambassador Hlayla asks. Thinking they're better than everyone else without putting in any actual work because they came from a certain place. I think it's called national exceptionalism. Imagine if someone was openly sabotaging themselves because they think things should work out because they're from a certain spire, and obviously it means they're better than those from other spires. I know what it means. I'm just shocked that this early into humanity's first contact something like this is being sent out. Your kind are in the unique position in that they can choose who makes contact and who doesn't. Unfortunately, my race is as disunified as any other despite being mostly on just one world. When the report went back to Earth about all we learned, there was a lot of disbelief. One of the first messages we got back was an official reprimand for the state of the message, despite it being entirely fact-based, coupled with personal messages to family. I see. That's a shame. What I'm mostly worried about, however, is the fact that your kind are known for carrying high-powered weapons at all times, and part of your plan is to scare a great number of them. You are an apex species. Violence is one of your first answers to being startled. I don't want anyone here being hurt. That's why they're being vigorously disarmed. They're not even getting to wear the clothing they want to, just uniforms, communicators, and emergency recall beacons. If it were truly up to myself and my normal co-workers, we wouldn't trust these people with cutlery. But we work with the fools we have, not the fools we want. Pardon, I meant tools. The tools we have, not the tools we want. I'm sure, Ambassador Hlayla says before grabbing Herbert around the shoulders. You've been among my kind for a while now, so understand just how we feel about those responsible for injuring the innocent. I know. I'm responsible for what happens. If one of them opens fire, I'm what's getting hit, not them. My plan, my problem, and my fault. Herbert promises, and there's some muttered protest among his wives about the man-protected women, but at the same time there's just as much about things being his idea, so the consequences are his. Good. I'm glad to see that you've learned about Zedan philosophy from your time among my kind. Now, if you'll excuse me, I can almost hear my paperwork reproducing. Of course, I apologize for any confusion. There was a sense of grumbling. Sir Philip and Madame Stepanova, as well as their assistant Harriet, was keeping a hard look on all of them. There was nothing but an angry silence. They had insisted without end that the mission was easy to the point of trivial. But damn it, there was one of those monster women in there. She'd taken a snap at her. All those teeth from a freaking giant with a huge weapon strapped to her side. Of course she'd handed the bitch a grenade and run. What else was she supposed to do? Ah, here we are, the Versi System Embassy. Thankfully, we have an understanding with them, so certain laws are suspended while we're here, Sir Philip says. They know he's baiting them. But someone asks anyways, what understanding? The Versi system is an arrangement system, a series of worlds that have a very pragmatic approach to the population issues. Every man is to be married to an appropriate number of wives. No exception. Or rather, there was no exception. Now there is one for acting military personnel in good standing. So thankfully I won't have to bring out a stick to fend them off. Oh please, Madame Stepanova grumps. Oh come now. You know exactly how popular I was way back when. Not with me you weren't? Really? Not even during that magical time as the Stroms? He asks, and she gives him an incredulous look. Did you like or hate that time? She asks, and he chuckles. It was a trying time, but I suppose in hindsight it wasn't all that bad. It's just that it set the record for how horribly a date could end. Speaking of, we're being dragged on a communal one tonight. This should be interesting. I've only seen bits and pieces of it now and then. Harriet notes, remembering the times when she saw the lunatic running at full tilt through the buildings and pathways of Defenestration Nation and being tackled from 5 stories up. Right. Well, first things first. Don't panic, Madame Stepanova states. Yes, indeed. However, so long as you all have read your dossiers and not simply skimmed them, then there will be no surprises in store for you and you'll be able to relax and enjoy a lovely evening, Sir Philip adds. After the screw-up earlier today, I'd be shocked if they could tie their own boots, Madame Stepanova states in a pissed-off tone. Now, all of you remember the rules laid out. Otherwise, you might invite attack. Then why did you disarm us? These are civilians. Attacking one of them is cause for a court-martial, but I don't trust you not to be stupid, Madame Stepanova growls. Among other things, our escort shall be arriving shortly, Sir Philip says as he glances at his communicator. Oh? They're having a very lazy day. They're bringing their pets along, the Purras. Adorable little things, a little clingy though. What's a... someone begins to ask before bright blue and orange facehugger launches itself through the air and wraps around Sir Philip's torso before grasping onto his face. Harriet, Sir Philip, and Madame Stepanova are the only ones that don't scream. The old Russian interrogator nearly loses her dentures laughing as the dignified old spy slowly peels off the brightly colored crab creature. There's another round of screaming as a dreadlocked woman drops down from above as she fades into visibility and grabs the facehugger before pulling it away. It wraps around the predator's face and purrs loudly. "What the hell is going?" is all they get out before the group breaks and scatters with a scream of terror as Herbert emerges with an entire horde of Zedin and Yaoya behind him. "Oh, come on! There's no need to be rude. We're just starting the introductions," Herbert calls to them. It takes a half hour before the panic subsides and everyone is brought back together, and more than a few of the girls are highly amused by the reactions. Yes, it had been a little discouraging at first, but the reactions was so over the top as to just be funny. They all piled into a large rented transport, and Sir Philip gives Madame Stepanova a lesson on how to pilot such ships as they head for Defenestration Nation and quickly register everyone. There's open scoffing as things are explained, and everyone heads into the zone in 3 teams denoted by a brightly colored band on their left arm. Left upper arm in the case of the Zedin. Herbert was in a special 4th team to encourage any and all of his girls to try and jump on him whenever there was an opportunity. The screams from the brown nosers are frequent and piercing. There are several hours of this entertainment until their time runs out, and the whole moving party heads to the next destination with the music pounding so hard that Madame Stepanova takes out her well-hidden hearing aids. The drinks are effectively flavored water and the sheer variety of alien life on display, all of which, stacked and packed, just reduces a great many of them to staring. The panic that the Zedin and Yaoya had caused had now worn off, and they were just dumbfounded. Many of the men end up propositioned, and several of them vanish into the crowds, following the allure of eager, bouncy aliens. Harriet double-checks each of them and ensures their beacons are on and functioning. After everyone calms down, the depleted party heads off for a meal as a few teams of soldiers are sent to possibly bail out the poor fools that wandered off after jiggling promises, and everyone is made to eat domesticated lizard meat, followed by a walk in a garden that grows crystalline spirals along the leaves, petals and grass to really drive home how odd things are. "And so, what have we learned?" Sir Philip asks, as everyone piles into the transport, shortly followed by the missing individuals being forced in by several squads of soldiers who force them in and sit them down with a small army of alien women outside being kept out now. "Excuse me, Sir Philip? Perhaps after we get my wives home safe and sound?" Herbert asks, and gets a kindly nod from the old spy. "Excuse me," one of them asks, and Herbert turns with a smile. "Yes, Gallia?" "Why do you keep calling him sir? Aren't you off the job?" the Yaoya girl asks. "He was knighted by the Queen of England. It's rude to address him without the sir." "What were you knighted for, sir?" Gallia presses, and Sir Philip chuckles. "Oh, just a few incidents involving some attempts on her family. Performing above and beyond the call of duty, courage in the face of danger. Silly things like that," Sir Philip remarks, and the transport takes off to the disappointment of the crowd. The soldiers break away and then make their way back to the Dauntless.